This is where the fun begins.
It is settled then. My wealth will fund the rebellion while Garm provides our fleet and Mon Mothma our soldiers.
An elegant weapon for a more civilized age.
Are you sure? So be it. Did you miss me?
CAF. Lots of it. For me and for the Ready Room. I have a feeling this mission is not one we can fly in our sleep.
I just love it when everything is said and done with the intros and everything, and then your mic is still on mute and you start talking. Hi, everyone, and good morning and welcome to Thursday CAF chat. Yeah, a little later than normal. I basically had, I guess you say a meeting interview, and your girl's doing big things. I am offering a continuing education class for yoga, but it's behind the premise of curating a meaningful playlist. If you haven't been in any type of workout class, like aerobics, Zumba, anything that requires music, basically, yoga really doesn't need to have music, but you want to curate a playlist that is energetically aligned to your class, whether it is for dance kind of workout or whatever. So I'm offering a continued education for that and how to craft one for yoga, the yoga experience for students. So I'm very excited about that, but this is not what this is about. So good morning to you and good morning to everybody on Rumble. If you're reporting on the Rumble side or reporting or hanging out, how are you guys doing? Thank you guys for being there. I know CAF Chat in the morning on Rumble is it's very, very new. So those who are dedicated to Rumble or want to start switching their platforms from YouTube to Rumble are usually hanging out over there. Purist is there. He has really no choice. He's basically got 86 out of YouTube. And so now Rumble basically is the place to be. It really is when it comes to allowing for your Second Amendment rights, right? And free speech, all of that. And as a native, I'm for that wholeheartedly. And for anybody here on what we call Turtle Island or America, yeah, that is something that's very, very important. You know, get out of this weird algorithm and get into more freer space, right? So good morning. And what's in your mug? How are you guys doing? Again, this was pushed back to 10. So a little off on, the schedule and stuff, I guess you could say. All good, though, because your girl's doing big things. Yeah. So today we are going to discuss, of course, finally have Book of the Week back and LucasFacts. So stay tuned for that. And then we're going to get into Kathleen Kennedy was basically grooming Filoni to become the president of LucasFilm. Yes, I made a clickbaity kind of title, but I don't give a damn. I don't give a fuck. Because in reality, that's what that was about, right? He went to even Rian Johnson and got his got some lessons from him as well. She groomed him. Yes, she groomed him. It's the lady, because women, we have to be put in the front of leadership no matter our experience, right? Because it's for equity. Notice how I didn't say equality. I said equity. What's the difference between that? You guys know. I'll leave that question for you guys to ponder. But equity, right? So she goes in because, you can't have just a man stepping up after a woman retires, right? Because that's not equity. That's not equality. Both are different in their own terms. So she has to go in and teach them. Now, you guys remember the women's conference I'm already talking about this shit. So a little bit of a peek into what we're going to get into. Remember his talk at the women's conference and how he was presenting everything? Do you think that that's not a bit of influence, or do you think maybe something to think about again? Maybe this is something that he's always kept within himself on how he feels about the patriarch versus the matriarch and how women are perceived in Hollywood, all of this gaslighting fans and even George Lucas in a sense. So we'll get into that discussion here in a little bit. And yeah, so welcome. How are you guys doing? I see everybody's hopping in. We got 9 so far that I'm seeing viewing here, which is cool. Thank you. Again, sometimes this time change kind of throws us off a bit on people being able to make it. But if you're here at 9 and you continue to go through up into 10 and 11, then this shouldn't be big of a change, right? This should not be big of a change. And if you're listening on Twitter, yes, I still stream to Twitter. I think it's not a lucrative place to be right now, but it is an exposing, getting views, getting people in kind of thing, right? So, and yeah. So let's see here. Let's see who is in the chat coming in, and share the stream out. If you're catching the replay, thank you so much. Let me know you were here. Comment below. Hit the like button. If you're on Rumble, if you guys here on YouTube are not on Rumble yet, get over there, follow, subscribe if you want to become a member. Basically, subscription is a membership, and support the channel there. I am not going to get rid of YouTube as of right now, but I think it's another great place to be. But who knows, the way they've been treating their creators, you never know. I might be 86 as well. And but Rumble is the place to be. So don't be a Rumblist. Get over there, create an account, and go and follow and subscribe to your favorite channels. All right. So Purist here on the Rumble side. What's up? First, choke the like button, repost on Rumble. Those on YouTube side, come support on Rumble. Create an account and give a follow over here. Yes, exactly. Just what I said. And so thank you for hanging out and holding up the fort over there. It's greatly appreciated. Next Thursday, I'm going to use, instead of StreamYard, so that means I got to transfer a lot of my stuff here on StreamYard. I'm going to use a Rumble Canva streaming lab basically there, similar to StreamYards, but it's part of the creators program that you get. It's part of that, or it's part of, being on Rumble as a creator. So I'm going to see how well that does. The only thing that I don't like is you can't highlight the names up on screen like you can here on StreamYards. And it'll still stream. I got to make the connection. I'm still going to have it stream to YouTube. I'm just using the technology that's provided for us over there. I'm going to try it out. And I need to go ahead and just start transferring things over anyway, so that when I use the studio there, it's all ready to go. And we have Mike here. What's up? So now Disney admits that we've been saying all along, once again, the Gatekeeper Alliance was right. All right, let's see here. And Soul Assassin, hey, what's up, Bato? How are you doing? Smash the like and share the stream out. Yes. Batsy is here. How are you doing? Let's see here. And follow OG. Yeah, follow me on Twitter. That's where you'll see a lot of my interactions with George Lucas era Star Wars, and also, with other people and the shills as well over there. let's see here. And I didn't put the Gatekeepers Alliance and all their links down in my descriptions last night. I forgot to do that. I do forget sometimes. But do give Purist a follow. Do give Grizzy, if you haven't, a follow. Melvin and Tim, you know, go ahead and go over there on Rumble and support them as well if you have not. Let's see here. And of course, here you go. Wedges Gamble. Let's see here. Yes, that clip is. And he's talking about, if you guys don't, you're not correlating, you're not getting what he's saying, it's this.
CAF. Lots of it. For me and for the Ready Room. I have a feeling this mission is not one we can fly in our sleep.
There we go. Let me see where I'm at. Let me see. Oh, there we go. And anybody else? Oh, we have Scran here. What's up, Scran? How are you doing? Our Scottish friend, eh? How are you doing? And how's everything going with your move? I'm excited to hear more about it once it gets really, really going. And excited to, you know, have you more or less in a closer time zone as well. She groomed him. She sure fucking did. Like and share. And how are you doing, Wolf Scar? Look at you and your Mando language. I know I said Mando language. I know. All right. Let's see here. And we have Conrado all the way from the Philippines. Why did Disney rename the original trilogy to Center Trilogy? I think I answered that on Twitter not too long ago. Basically, this is not defending them and stuff like that. But they described it as the Center Trilogy. They did not rename it to Center Trilogy. So that's what I'm getting from that. But, you know, just keep an eye out, see if they keep repeating this and eventually make it the actual title. This is, again, a way of slowly conditioning for the revisionist history. That's what they've been doing all along. So just keep an eye. They've done that with Slave One. All right. Equity is just academic speak for special treatment. There you go. That's basically, I would say, a layman's term. I'm not saying that you're a layman or like you're very basic and stuff, but something or simple. But yeah, he always got picked last in sports, so he identifies with women. Oh my God. That is brutal. Shit, that is brutal. He admitted this. Equity is about the girl boss as the elite. Let's see here. Scran says, I follow Pierce, but I don't support him. Dead. What is this about? Gabriel Knight on Rumble. Now, you guys, again, join us on Rumble. I'm commenting over there. Hello to my Rumble. Hello to my Rumble. What did I say? I want to come up with nice slang or whatever. My Rumble peeps for now. Rumble peeps. Hello to my Rumble peeps. All right. Let's see here. And then here we go. So Sol is throwing down all the links there to Rumble. Thank you so much. I'm about to read Wedges Gamble. The copy I got at half price book at $4.50 has Stackpole's autograph. Yeah, I remember you mentioning that before. Oh, wow. Now, I don't know why. Why would someone, if they didn't realize they had the autograph or they got it themselves, if you're going to, first of all, I would have kept that shit. Honestly. Why sell something like that, right? And if you're going to sell, then this is where you make money, right? Money. Yep. $4.50. What a fucking bargain. Now I would go and get that. I would see if that autograph is authentic, and that would be like, holy shit, this person was so fucking stupid. But anyways, that's just my point. That the stupidity of one person is now your benefit, right? Kind of sounds more like Han than Wedge. They're both Corellians. They're both Corellians. As much as you would say Wedge is more of a humble, if that exists for Corellians, a humble Corellian, versus like the attitude that, you know, most Corellians have that we see like in Han and stuff like that. Yeah, so I would say that he's still Corellian. Grant's becoming a fellow Buckeye. Oh, for the location where he's moving to. Yeah, that's crazy. That would be 2 hours ahead of me. Yeah, I think that's basically, so he is significantly like 7, 8, 9 or something like that. So he's basically coming back in time in a sense to where he now is only 2 hours ahead of me instead of 9 or something like that. Is that how that works? Oh, confusing. When I was in Italy for 3 weeks, I think it was a 9-hour difference too from there to home. So yeah, something like that. All confusing. I just knew that I was like 9 hours difference. Watch while babysitting a family member's doggy. Oh, sweet. You're sweet. Awesome. And thank you for tuning in. Let's see here. There's another one thrown down. Slave one shall always be slave one, except no substitute, right? And in fact, let's go ahead and play this. Why not? Why not?
The fate of the galaxy is now in your hands. With the new LEGO Star Wars Slave One, you can load Captain Solo, arm your weapon systems, man the cockpit, and take off with the most feared ship in the galaxy. But watch out for rebel ships. No matter the enemy, no matter the firepower, you control the action. With the new LEGO Star Wars collection.
There you go. Slave One. Now, do you guys recall your early years with Star Wars and maybe collecting some of the items like Legos and stuff like that? It's pretty awesome, right? And last night I was able to, because now my schedule has changed. So now I more or less now can go and support Raging Rhino for Casual Rage and, you know, mod in his chat and stuff like that. And so he was showing his Lego collection. I was basically, with the exception of last night, I went to a yoga class. I didn't teach it, wasn't working, but I decided I just needed to move for myself. I've been doing a lot of weight training right now, so I just needed to have some movement in the body to work out the lactic acids, all of that, and keep my range of motion really good. So I went to yoga. So on the way home, I was listening to Casual Rage, and you know he was sharing his Lego collection and stuff like that. So, and you know, and I'm not a Lego person per se. I was given the Millennium Falcon to put together, and I haven't even done it yet because I'm not a Lego person, really. And yeah, so I think it's pretty cool. Like when you have a hobby and you have an interest in something like that in your collection and stuff. Just not my thing, but I still support. I still think it's cool. And let's see, that's right, Mike. Let's see here. Hello to Rumble peeps. Yes, that's me on the Rumble side. Let's see here. And the Center Trilogy renamed so they can justify their sequel trilogy to finish the story. Yeah, that's how they what they call it. But I think in the front of the thing it says original trilogy. I'm not sure, but that's right now. It's not exactly a renaming, but keep your eye out for that. Keep your eye out for that. All right, let's see here. Lots of cool Legos sets. Yeah. Let's see here. And they censor Slave One to a generic term, Boba Fett's fire spray. Yeah, and it's not really Boba Fett's fire spray. It's really Jango. He inherited it from him. But you can also say, if you know the lore on the Fett's ship, so Slave One, you know why it's called Slave One. And then once it gets into Boba's hands, basically, he has rebuilt it to where it's basically a brand new ship, except for I think he said the seat. So interesting, right? So you could say that, oh, he inherited this from his quote unquote father, his clone, the main clone, or whatever. But in the end, he made it his own. So there you go. There you go. I want to collect some toys of the old toys, some toys of the old toys. The Hasbro toy lightsaber and Astromech action figures are my priority. Ooh, when you do, in fact, I don't think some of you guys are on my Discord. I have to open up another phase in Discord. Some of you guys have earned to go into those. So I'll be opening that up here pretty soon. Excuse me, I don't know why my voice wants to be how harsh it is today. I have no idea. You are listening to a woman. But anyways, I got to do that. But, I want to go ahead and share a link out for some of you guys to come and join on my Discord. So I got to figure out how to do that, because if anybody comes in and tries to infiltrate, there's a lot of people that are very dishonest and just want to create harm to others and stuff like that. So I'm very protective of you guys. And so I'll figure out how to get the link to some of you guys here. Hey, Melissa Lord, I see you. Let's see here. Now, where was I at? There we go. Prequel trilogy equals early trilogy. I see what you're rolling with there, Conrado. OG would be the type of person to use glue when building a Lego Falcon. Really? Also, it doesn't fall apart and doesn't get jacked up by cats and stuff like that. Oh, goodness gracious. All right. I used to collect Lego sets. My last one was a 2018 Naboo generator with Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, and Maul. Oh, nice. Nice one, sir. Let's see here. And how are you doing, channel member? Hey, Alora, how are you doing? I know I already said hi already, but I just wanted to bring you back up on screen. And the Rumble side looks like it's kicking. And we have Gabriel Knight and Bane holding down the chat over there. If you guys want to bounce between the two, just bounce, you guys. You can go ahead and go over there and hang out with them on that side. I do see you on StreamYards, whether you're on YouTube or Rumble here. Now, I wish once I get to the Rumble Canva, Streamlab kind of platform, I won't be able to see any YouTube comments. So I'd have to have both windows open so I can reply accordingly. Yeah. So that's the only little hiccup on that. That's the only hiccup on that. All right. So let's see here. What else? So today we are going to talk about more of Jacen Solo pertaining to Traitor, but also his arc in general. Now I did make slides. I'm lacking on that. You guys know me. I like to give you guys visuals and stuff like that. Well, I'm kind of lacking on this one. So wah. And so we're going to get into that. We are going to get into Jacen Solo. So still today on Twitter, there is the Alston verse, basically, quote unquote, Denning verse. People just going full-fledged, toxic, hateful, their hate boner against Denning regarding legacy of the Force and fate of the Jedi. So that's still going on right now. In fact, I've seen a few comments within the last 24 hours with some of them. And a lot of them are the green dot cults. So the green idiots, green dot idiots who are doing that and saying some of the writings within some of the books are just plain stupid and what have you. And I'm like, dudes, do you guys even know the context of what's going on? And they're like, oh yeah. And so the characters must have watched The Phantom Menace. And I'm like, what the fuck? So there we go. So they're taking everything out of context and stuff like that. But any other writer or author, basically, if they recall something from the past, they're not going to say that kind of narrative because they have that fucking hate boner, right? So we'll get into more of that. But let's go ahead and get into our book of the week. Let's get into that. Now, the last couple of Thursdays, we did not have book of the week, or the last couple of CAF chats, basically. but we are going to have it now because I love presenting these books with you. And it's always good to have books front and center and sparks people to read. So if you haven't read it yet and you're like, oh, I like this story, I want to know more, then it gets you really, involved with that and wanting to read. And that's the focus of this channel as well. And so here we go. So book of the week, and basically it's gonna be short story of the week. And it does give where it's located. I do have PDF links for it. So I will, no, not on this one. No, I don't have a PDF link on this one. I don't think. But I do have the issue, and I can share that in Discord. So here we go.
I hate to say it, but it looks like the item you're searching for doesn't exist.
Impossible. Perhaps the archives are incomplete.
If an item does not appear in our records, it does not exist.
It does not exist. So let's get into this right now. So here we go. So this is from Star Wars Galaxy issue 8, which was published in 1996, and it's called Dark Vendetta. So how many of you guys know about Inquisitors pre-TCW or pre-Disney? Inquisitors have been a part long before they were introduced later. And so many people confuse that, oh, well, there was never Inquisitors. This sucks. And I think I've seen that like a year ago with a lot of these quote unquote on our sider kind of fans who are very basic fans who are not realizing, like, when the, what is it called, the Obi-Wan, the OK show, I like to say OK, it's Obi-Wan Kenobi show, but the OK show shared its Inquisitors as well. People are like, oh, well, there was never such a thing as Inquisitors, we think it's stupid because that breaks the rule of two. No, it doesn't. Not defending Disney on this, but basically going into what an Inquisitor is, pertaining to the lore pre-Disney. And there's basically dark side hit persons, right? They go out and do the biddings, but they're not trained Sith. They're not like Sith apprentices whatsoever. And we do have Iron Inquisitor in here, and we do have an Inquisitor in here, and so we see one of the Inquisitors, and I think he might be the first one, Jarek from Dark Forces. And he might be the very first one, I think, or maybe I'm off. Maybe there's one before him. So correct me if I'm wrong. So getting into the story, and there isn't some continuity notes, and this is leaves up to you on if you agree with it or not. So this story is by Eric. It's Troutman, published by in Star Wars Galaxy 8. It's a short story in 1996, and the timeline is 10 BBY. Yeah, you think Jarek was the first? I think so too, but I could be wrong. So High Inquisitor Tremaine was introduced in 1993 by Weston Games as a potential villain for players of the Star Wars role-playing games. Tremaine's flashback is Dark Vendetta. Don't mesh easily with the continuity established years later with the release of Revenge of the Sith. Now, again, tell me, you guys, in the chat, if the E was not canon, then how could they be making claims? It does not mesh well. It does not, go well with the established movie if they're not supposed to be in the same continuity timeline and the same canon. Think about that. The tale states that he was recruited by Palpatine to aid Vader in calling of the corrupt Jedi Knights prior to Empire's Emperor cementing his role. So they're saying right before he became the emperor of the empire. So with that being said, we've seen before, during and around the establishment of the empire, when we had Nightfall and the Purge, all of that Anakin was aided, and like with the 501st and all of that. So you could say that it fits in there because after the Purge, like after Nightfall and all that, from now I have to think now because it's been a quick minute since I watched Revenge of the Sith, that after all those events began and the temple was basically taken down, burnt down, all of that by Nightfall, then he announced himself as emperor and established the empire. So there could be some truth to this. We never know. Do you think it meshes well with it? I will share the story. I'll pull. I am almost positive. I'm missing only 2 of the Star Wars Galaxy magazines in my collection, and I am pretty sure I didn't pull them out because I did relocate some of my library into the living room from my studio. So and then I reorganized. So I'll pull that out, and I will share copies of the story so that in my Discord so you guys can check it out. So let me see what you guys have to say. Let's see here. Jarek was actually found by Inquisitors and his surrendered to them for the chat. Yeah, okay. And that's where I'm thinking, okay, was he? Or was there even more, but there were unnamed, Good morning, Nerd Migos. What are you guys up to? What's up, Vatos? Got some more Vatos in the house, eh? And Melissa says, riddle me this, Batman. How did Disney decanonize the EU if it was never canon? And we did have a clip. I'm going to pull that up here pretty soon. That was shared to me about, this is a source book now from Disney, and it describes what Legends is and why the EU was named Legends. So I'll pull that up here pretty soon. Soul Assassin says the Star Viper ships looks cool. As always, little connection to Shadows of the Empire. Yep. That continuity going on. Dooku's Dark Acolyte did the rule of many each other. Let's see here. A lot of early Inquisitors in the real canon were Service Corps dropouts who were failures or were considered unfit for Jedi training. Great history right there. Great history. Like I need that thing. The more you know in here, the more you know, right? The more you know. And then Star Wars Grant said, speaking of the Denning-verse, Insider issue 89 has an article about the legacy of the Force and how Aaron Alston got to kick it off with writers, meetings and discussions. Meetings and discussions with the heads of licensing. Correct. So Alston headed it basically. So how is this a Denning-verse when you got to look into it as an Alston-verse? And he was like, we need a villain and da-da-da. So he basically agreed with the villain, who the villain was going to be, and they established that. Okay. Let's see here. Do they use the helicopter lightsabers? No, they don't. Green dolts are dumb. They're dum-dums. It was all canon. Everything published was canon. I need to get that. I thought I had that clip up here. I might have took it down a long time ago. I don't know, but I need that clip. It will be on Rumble. It'll be one of the first ones for Rumble over there. I'm going to spend next week putting things together for that, so that I can use the Rumble platform to stream from, and eventually move away from StreamYards because that's more cost effective than StreamYards. So I just got to get used to the functions of it and stuff and adapt to that. So there's a lot of fun changes going on here. The Disney's Inquisitor Taurus lightsabers was a scrap content from Force Unleashed for Star Killer. Malorum, the first Grand Inquisitor, was one of those with weak potential who worked at the temple servicing the Jedi as non-Jedi personality. You're right. You're right. A little history. So Iron Inquisitor spitting some Inquisitor facts. I figured that was meetings. I got you. Into the Denning-verse. The Denning-verse. Alston introduced Vergere being a Sith at Sith training. That's exactly why I say it's the Alston-verse Scran. Exactly. Let's see here. Okay. And the bird sexuals know this, and they're still just having fits over that because why they can't, face the fact that, where the exact evolution of Vergere happens and who decided that. Let's see here. Suggesting that Denning got to do whatever he wanted goes against everything we know about the EU how the EU operated. Correct. And we have Lucas Gerson here. What's up? Hello there, everyone. Force crush the like button and hello to you. Disney's Inquisitors don't need ships. They have their personal helicopter saber. Oh my goodness, that's hilarious. I need to have a clip of that. If I would have been more prepared for this discussion. You never know what we're going to discuss and what's going to happen as we discuss in CAF chat, where the topic's going to take us. So you can't really be prepared for everything. But man, to have that clip for the helicopter lightsaber thing of them flying off, that's funny as hell. That is funny as hell. Yeah, so all right. So Inquisitor history here, a little, teasing about the Disney lore when it comes to them. And how many of you guys, no judgment, but how many of you guys have seen show, the Obi-Wan Kenobi show? And what did you think about that? Especially when it came to the Inquisitors. I would like to hear, before we move on, we'll get into LucasFacts, and then we'll get into the New Jedi Order, Jacen Solo. Wolfscar says, the Disney Inquisitors are just so terrible and weak. The EU Inquisitors were actually powerful. Even the basic standard one could easily crush a Padawan, let alone take on full Jedi Knight. Melissa Lord says, Kenobi did the most lore damage of anything Disney has done. Woo-wee. All right. So I would love to hear what you have to say more about that. That is very thought-provoking. And yes, I do agree. The rematch just shits all over the OT. And yes, I have proven this time and time again, like even in Disney source material, when it came to the rematch for Vader and Obi-Wan or Ben, it was stated the rematch was on the Death Star. So there's another, and then so they retcon that. So this retcon damages what the intent was for George Lucas. And then again, their source material that they have published in one of their books about when the rematch happened. So this was all a retcon, and it all goes against and breaks major continuity, and also the effects, the feel, the scene, the temperament of the scene, all of that. It hurts that as well. It hurts that as well. Let me see here. Let's see here. No, haven't seen it. Such garbage. Well, unless clips, but that's all I've seen. Yeah, and me too. And there's certain scenes I watched because I needed to get a clarity to what I'm talking about, part of the research, all of that. And then also looking up because Wikipedia, I do not support, but when it comes to Wikipedia and Disney, Star Wars faux lore, you're going to have more accurate accounts than anything else for that, right? And Iron Inquisitor says, I saw the Obi-Wan show and it's lame. The Inquisitor barely did anything in it. They just stood around and talked mostly. Yeah, I've seen clips of those as well. Yeah, but with Wikipedia, I trust it more to give information on the Disney full lore. But then again, it's so fucked up. The lore and continuity-wise is so messed up, and on its own, it's still questionable, I guess. I don't know. But I don't trust him with what that was called, quote-unquote, legends, so I don't trust him with that. And myself and Scran has witnessed editors changing things to fit their own narrative. And that's alarming as well. Mike says, I've never watched the Communist Plus shows, but hearing about Kenobi and Vader fighting, I knew it was going to be amazing, or among the worst shows. Amazing, the worst show. Yeah, amazingly the worst show. Yeah, there we go. I paraphrased for you a little, amazingly the worst show. I think the only original lore Disney did was crystal bleeding. Everything else they borrowed from the EU. Hi, Nazo. How are you doing? You could say that there's things that were brought in and stuff like that, but a lot of things was bastardized if it was brought in. Center Trilogy, not OT, Conrado says. Agreed. More lore breaking than The Last Jedi. Woo-wee, that's a lot. Oh my God. To do a Disney compare and contrast on which breaks more continuity to the movies and how much it bastardizes and breaks continuity within the EU. Man, okay. My head's kind of spinning right there, and thoughts and ideas and stuff like that. Canon don't mean anything to Disney Filoni. Well, this is what he has to say. So don't put words in Mr. Filoni's mouth now there, Soul Assassin. How dare you? Because, it'd be rude.
And I've always leaned towards if we're going to create something, we should check and see if it existed already to the fans, because it has way more value if we bring that in. And It's like, why would I just replace it with something new? So if we're going to do an admiral, if we're going to do a big military leader, I could create a new guy, sure. But what about Thrawn? Thrawn is great. Thrawn is a character we all know. Thrawn has a lot of credibility. So then you ask yourself, is it right to use him? And can we use him in a way that's similar to the books? Or are we using him and it's going to go completely into left field? And there have been times when we wanted to use things from the EU, and I was like, yeah, but we can't use it that way, so why? I don't want to use it and change it. Mm-hmm. I don't want to use it and make it something completely different. That's rude.
That's rude. So, Soul Assassin, quit being so fucking rude. Holy crap. All right. A presence I haven't felt since those two places after Mustafar. I know, right? It's like George is specifically thinking between the movies. Not saying that he was not canon, but he sets the foundation of the canon that everything has to follow off of, right? So when he was creating the scene, this right here, this quote, he wasn't thinking about anything outside the movies, really. He was thinking about the movies between 3 and 4. Think about that, 3 and 4. And it was even given, and I shared this proof. I have a video, I believe I have a video in here about this on my channel. But I shared the truth about that, where even LucasFilm, Lucas Books basically, was given directives to not have Obi-Wan leave Tatooine anymore after The Last of the Jedi. And during that time when he left, it was just shortly after he went to Tatooine to settle down and hide and protect and wait to train and mentor Luke, right? So LucasFilm told Lucas Books, we got to keep continuity here. This is not George's idea. And so after that, he had to stay on Tatooine. And so the story was very clever, to where, the Force led Obi-Wan to make sure that any and all evidence that remained that they overlooked or did not see could not be found, and they can destroy him. So Luke and Leia's whereabouts and the proof that Padme did give birth were no longer, available or can't be found because, and stuff like that. So he was basically protecting the twins by destroying and going to Polos Massa and destroying any remaining evidence. And so that's the Last of the Jedi. Book 1 and 2, I think 3 was it book 1, 2, and 3, or just book 1 and 2? But anyways, that story arc in the beginning of the Last of the Jedi, very fun to read. And after that, Lucasfilm told Lucas Books, hey, you can't be doing this anymore. We can't have him venturing off at any chance he has, because, you know, the possible encounter with Vader could happen, right? And it will destroy the foundation that George is creating. All right, so that's just a little bit more history on that, since we got into that topic. And Conrado says Vader is like Goku and Grievous from TCW with the multiple rematches, right? Exactly, great point. The show is terrible. Last thing I watched was Ahsoka before I stopped, and even being morbidly curious. Wow, yeah. Curiosity, they say, killed the cat, right? You don't want to be that cat. You don't want to be that cat. All right. The only Inquisitor that matters is Kenobi was the turd sister, aka Revan. Oh. In for that matter in Kenobi, not okay, I see in the show. Oh my god, the Inquisitor. What was her name? What was that Inquisitor's name? Reva? Oh, duh, it was just right there in front of me. Reva? Get with the show. Get with the program, Laura. Shit. Green dolts are just Disney shills painted in green. Laugh out loud. Here you go. They're pretend EU fans, right? Crystal Period and OT trio deconstructions were the only original ideas that Disney invented. Okay, let's see here. And faux Disney Star Wars Aunt Beru was a gangsta, and Uncle Owen was a cuck. And there you go. There you go. I mean, very, very big possibility or facts right there, according to that, towards Disney and how they're putting women, and I'm a woman, but we're putting women up on a pedestal that's not earned. And I'm all about earning, like even for characters, earning their place, right? Mara Jade. Many people have said, always said, I've seen this lately, not lately, but within some normies saying within the last 4 years or so, oh, well, Mara is an insufferable bitch in the Thrawn trilogy. I can't stand her. And then they'll also go into how she is an OP character or what have you, and compare her to a Disney Star Wars character. And I'm like, dude, the reason why she is acting how she is and how she is because of the factors of where she ended up being in the time of Thrawn trilogy, and how she has this reoccurring voice on to destroy Luke Skywalker, the last command, right? And so she's dealing with, the loss of who she was, basically, because she was basically kidnapped by Palpatine and raised, in a sense, by Palpatine to be his hand. And so her loss of her structure by the Rebel Alliance, and basically this was pitted, Luke was the biggest blame and so she's given that last command. So she's this insufferable character for a while because she's dealing with these emotions, what happened to her. And if you get to read some of the comics prior, you'll understand some more. Now, not saying, and so there's a purpose to why she was created and why she was depicted the way she was. There's a purpose to it. So when there's a purpose to a character for acting for the situation or in situations and how they're acting, then that right there gives, I guess, a better reality to their circumstances. And then you see her change later on because she did her last command. She's starting to make peace with herself. She is in a new structure of working for Card and all this other stuff. And then finally, her and Luke deciding to marry. So there's an arc to that. There's a purpose to that character. There's a purpose to why she was made that way and how she evolved. If that makes sense to you guys. Let's see here. Dave, You basically do something new because you butcher whatever you bring in from the EU. There's nothing similar about whatsoever. Whatever is brought in, you do change it. Exactly. It is changed no matter what. All right. Except Dave Filoni made Thrawn into an absolute buffoon in Ahsoka show. All right. And then Nerdmigo says, every time I see a new Disney Star Wars Inquisitor, I just see another missed opportunity of Vader hunting most of the surviving Jedi himself, which he would have done quickly, not more than 10 years in. Correct. So he was like, even Dark Lord Rise of Darth Vader, which Scrawn is reviewing on his channel on Mondays. He is anxious to destroy, and there are some stories within the timeline that the George Lucas era of him destroying the Jedi, the hiding Jedi, the Jedi that are hidden are in hiding. And so that's something to look into. So if anybody wants to throw out the name of this comics, I forget. Sorry. But there are some stories, if you want to share those stories in the chat of Vader, like there was a trap set up for Vader and he overcame the trap. He realized that and basically eliminated those Jedi. So ain't the first time Filoni had something in his mouth. Let's see here. She Palpatine hired the Inquisitor. Oh, that's Disney. That's Disney Palpatine. Might make a good video topic, OG. How many times the company or publishers went against Lucas and thought they knew better and failed? Ooh, a lot of ideas here. A lot of ideas. I had a Scholastic Omnibus novelization of the original trilogy from 2004. It makes reference to the prequels and the Clone Wars micro series. There you go. All right, you guys have a lot to say in here, and I want to get to the book of the week, but I also am enjoying this topic, so I'm going to scroll and get some of your guys' comments here. So if I skip some of yours, it's not on purpose. Everyone who watched the purest comic read of Heir to the Empire and Dark Force Rising knows I think Mara was a whiny bitch in the trilogy. Also explains she grows after the trilogy. Exactly. So those like normie fans, like for example, I'm gonna bring her name up. Nerd Cookies has basically, was it her or was it the Lily character? Anyways, if I'm wrong, I apologize, but I think it's either her or the Lily character that still follows me on Twitter. But she was reading the Thrawn trilogy, and she was just going off on Mara Jade, and it's kind of like, okay, you're a normie on this and you don't understand the character arc and what's going on and why she's acting this way. And so it's quite interesting, fascinating to see that. And then the person going off and saying, this is how Disney does this and trying to tear down what was established before as if it was like, Disney content or whatever. See, it's done here in George Lucas era. No, dude, no bitch. I think it was, now that I think about it, I think it was at Lily. Her first name is Lily on Twitter. But anyways, it was all written for a reason, for purpose, as part of the arc. And this is where someone is disingenuous, never has read, and is just now, for whatever reason, trying to correlate George Lucas era to Disney. Like I said, it was very fascinating to see that. I would be like, okay, so she's acting this way. Well, I know they eventually get married, so there has to be a change in her character arc because, she can't be this insufferable bitch the whole time through. No, she's not. So common sense, right? Logic going on there. Double A. Yes. Hello, how are you doing? I never heard of this book before. I got to check it out. I will share this in my Discord in Lore Talk. I'm going to pull out my copy and take some screenshots and make sure that it's readable for you guys so that you can check out the story. I'm a green dot. I'm a Green Dolt. I'm a Legends fan. You know, X-Wing series, bro. Corn, horn, dog, Marge, egg, man. And I hate Denning verse. Laugh my ass out. Yeah. So, Bane, purist. It's like, now, with that's the New Jedi Order, they started picking up on that because of us. And then he goes into, I'm going to start reading through the X-Wing series, and all of a sudden now they're reading through the X-Wing series. So that's kind of fascinating. And then when I notice, like when I start talking more about a certain era or a certain book, all of a sudden that's the highlight of their topics. It's like they don't have no creative direction, I guess you could say, for conversations, that they pick up on what we are saying, what we are talking about. And it's usually not positive talk. It's usually not positive talk. So it's weird. Let's see here. And let's go ahead and get into, because I want to get into our Jacen Solo talk for Traitor. And last time we talked about him, it was about his torture. And the clip I wanted to share, I shared a little glimpse, and it was, but there's one more I wanted to share, but I did not clip it. So I'll probably share it as an EU short on Rumble and on YouTube as well. And I think it's very important to share like the intentions of Nom Anor and Vergere when it comes to Jacen and what's really going on. And people don't, these green dolts who praise New Jedi Order, we praise it too, and then they praise it so much that they use it against Denning because of their Denning versus boner, hate boner, right? But they use that against that, and they forget, they miss the fact that this was set up by Nom Anor as a new way to see how they can convert a Jedi. And Vergere is a part of it. Now, again, like I said, the intentional writing of Vergere, the planning of Vergere, did not translate with every single author. And I think that's where they messed up with that. Because if they were intentionally making her as a Korea type character from the Old Republic, or even a Jedi that got lost and confused with the influence of the people, the species they are with, and the influence from Palpatine, that's not clear either. Or is it? Right? So the intention of her character arc sorely got is what they failed on. All right, so let's go ahead and get into our not book of the week, but LucasFacts, because we already did that, right? If I said book of the week, I'm sorry, it's LucasFacts.
That's great.
It's going to be great.
That's going to be great.
It's going to be great.
That's going to be great.
I usually do LucasFacts first, and then I do book of the week, but I switched it around because we haven't had one in a while. So here's LucasFacts. This is a quick, simple one, and it's regarding Tartakovsky and the making of Clone Wars 03. I am very interested in anime, and this is George Lucas, and I want and in anime, and I was really interested into moving into a kind of animation that was very different from anything we've done in the past. And Genndy is very good at bridging that transition between traditional animation and anime. So this is a LucasFact about why he chose Genndy for Clone Wars 03. And then you can see why he wanted him for the bigger project going forward. Because we know that, well, most of us know, and if you're listening now and you didn't know, now you know. We know that George selected Genndy Tartakovsky for the animation department and to do the Clone Wars bigger picture of Clone Wars. From his experience with him, He liked his artistic style. He liked his artistic way of show, not tell, because the Clone Wars is basically that. Show more than tell. There's a lot of scenes that there's no script, no one's saying anything, but you knew exactly what was going on. You got the climate of the story, by looking at it. You got the arc of the story itself by just watching, even when there's no type of script, there's no one talking during the time. Double A says, I know Darth Watsy Boy and Unlucky Kitty are lurking and watching the punk ass closet OG stalker. Yeah, you know, they're going to do what they're going to do. They're going to do what they're going to do. But since you brought that up, you know, why not give praise to those that hate watch, those that lurk, right? And so thank you so much.
Certified boogeyman, I'm the one that up to score with them. The industry can hate me, fuck them all, ain't they mama? Bitch, sit down. Be humble. Sit down. Be humble. Sit down. Bitch, sit down.
All right, so there we go. Moving on to bigger and better things, because you know we don't talk about punk ass bitches here, right? We don't talk about them here. Not worth our time, not worth our grace. I get the reason why Genndy didn't want to do it, personal reasons, but I am sad we didn't get him. Yeah. So they were in negotiations. They were both putting their cards on the table, and it just didn't happen. And then later on, Filoni was brought in through interview by Christy. Was it Christy or Kathleen? Kristen. Yeah, Kristen Widner, I think it was, right? I know it's with a W, but anyways, yeah. So he was so that set up the interviews of bringing another person in. So going from being personally selected, and in the negotiating room with George Lucas to just coming in through interview. Quite a big difference, right? Quite a big difference. Who do you think George had more praise for than at the time? I would say Genndy Tartakovsky. All right, Genndy Tartakovsky's philosophy: show, don't tell. Correct. Let's see here. It's sad that Genndy was reduced to Adam Sandler's bitch at the time. What? What are you talking about? How was he reduced to what? I don't know. Wasn't it Catherine Widner? Yes. Or was it Christine? It's Catherine. Either way, blah. Getting Dave correct. Let's see here. A world without Filoni, TCW. Wow, yes, I get it. All right. TCW made by Genndy would be too epic to be real. We would get into a regular show moment if he made it. Haha. Yeah, and you know, he worked alongside George as well. Communicated and was even, you know, said, hey, you know, we need to lead this into the opening of Revenge of the Sith and stuff. So there was a lot of, like, I guess you could say, synergy going on. And he impressed George so much with what he does with his animation, his stories, all of that, to even working with him, that's he wanted him at his side, you know, for the coming Lucas animations. So that right there is a great accolade. It's the accolade on that is so much more than what they're saying about Filoni. Oh, Filoni, he's George's apprentice. He was selected by George. No, it was Genndy who was selected by George. There's a difference between selecting and being hired by. Selected means that you're going, you know, like you're seen for your worthiness, and that you fit within the structure that the person that's bringing you in and there's potential, there's promises, blah, 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 blah. There's all of that, right? More or less than, oh, going through an interview. Okay, well, he fits the structure. He knows what he's doing. I guess we can bring him in. He's the most qualified out of these people we interviewed versus being selected. So Pure says, on the Rumble side, if you guys want to go hang out on the Rumble side with him, go over there. What are you waiting for? Okay. Unfortunately, the archive stream that messed up last night, I went over the detail of Genndy almost being rehired and being George's choice. There you go. So I know you were talking about that. Were you able to re-upload it? Or are you going to do it again? That's one thing to look into. All right. And he used source books. Let's see here. There's more Lucas Star Wars mythic continuity in the Clone Wars micro series than in the entire Disney Star Wars catalog. Woo, that's a lot right there. You got that. You got that right. Let's see here. All right. Clone Wars by Genndy made me love the prequel trilogy even more than I already did. Dave Filoni's TCW has too many contradictions. Yeah, many people were taken out of like the experience when they're like, wait, what? That doesn't mesh with what was shown here or there or what have you. So I get it. All right. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into our Jacen Solo Traitor events and Traitor timeline here. And then we'll get into talking our cringe factor. Now, Genndy is such a big topic when it comes to what George wanted for the Clone Wars, all of that. But we're going to start segueing into that. So I'm going to give you guys a chance to maybe refresh your drinks or take care of yourselves. Go to the refresher, whatever you need to do. And we're getting into Jacen Solo, Traitor, and beyond in his arc. So this question here. What is your favorite moment with Jacen Solo? And I'm going to leave this into a broader range of timeline from him when he was young, like in Dark Empire, to him before his death. So you can share there, but now's your chance to refill your drinks and go to the refresher, what you need to do.
CAF. Lots of it. For me and for the ready room. I have a feeling this mission is not one we can fly in our sleep.
Someone asked me to give the best reason why someone should read the Expanded Universe. After giving it a lot of thought, here's what I have to say. The Expanded Universe respects the reader. In the Expanded Universe, Luke Skywalker's optimism continues where it left off in Return of the Jedi. He's fulfilled hope to the galaxy just like Obi-Wan said he would, not like the Disney movies where he gave up on the Jedi or even the whole galaxy for that matter. The character you see in those movies is not Luke. Luke isn't a quitter. He's not a pessimist. He's a leader. He's inspirational. And he's always there for his friends in times of need. Another character is Han Solo. He's introduced to us in A New Hope as a loner, a man who cares only for himself and nobody else. But by the end of Return of the Jedi, that all turns around when he finally finds friends he can trust and a true love to spend the rest of his life with. And that's exactly what he does in the Expanded Universe. Han is a devoted husband and father to Leia and their kids. He loves his family above all else. In the new movies, Han turns out to be a selfish deadbeat dad who ran out on his family when things get tough. It's a complete 180 from the character that we saw from Return of the Jedi. Now, another thing the EU does is it rewards its readers. Attention to detail when it comes to continuity has never been done at such a level as when it was performed by the Expanded Universe. Avid readers will constantly be rewarded for their diligence as comics, novels, video games, and even children's books share connections throughout the entire series, making it almost a flawless, continuous story. And though it has its minor flaws, it's still the best overall story in continuity out there, period. That's what the EU does. It respects and rewards its readers. And that's the best reason you should give it a try. Long live the expanded universe.
Long live the expanded universe. And I'm going to pull up, I want to pull up the Japanese art of the Traitor novel. So we have that as a visual here. So let me see. I'm getting it right now. I just decided as we were listening to Matt Wilkins, anybody who wants to, any mods want to share in the comments of his channel, you guys can go ahead and go subscribe if you haven't. If you have not. So there we go. I just want to bring it up. Dude. New. There we go. I'm going to bring this screen up. Very, very interesting here. All right. I'm going to go back and look at the comments and stuff. So your favorite moment with Jacen from birth, basically. So we'd say there's not much of him in the trilogy. There's nothing of him other than them being mentioned, born and stuff like that with the Throne trilogy, but like Dark Empire and going all the way to his death. So what is your favorite moment of his? Let me see, image file. Oh, wait, no, I'm not. It's not an image file, dude. Laura, get with it. All right. So share in the comments here, giving you a chance to think about what you have read of him. Even if it's very minimal, I would like to hear it anyways, because you know, who knows? You might still have been, you know, that scene might have been meaningful to you, or you just want to share it because that's what you know of them, and that's perfectly fine. That is okay. So window, entire screen. Nope. Chrome. There we go. Okay. All right. So here we go. StreamYards. Let me go ahead and make full image here. All right, so amazing art right here. We do have the bird sexual desire Vergere here. We do have, you know, Jacen right here. Is that Gunnar Rysode or no? But anyways, we have Anakin. It looks like a picture of Anakin for some reason in the background, and like a memory of him or whatever. So let me see what you guys say in the comments before we get into it. Okay. So Derek Lopez, and this is not about Jacen, but still I want to just bring this up. For example, in Attack of the Clones, Lama Su told Obi-Wan on Kamino that the clone troopers are designed to be perfect soldiers from birth, and they're completely obedient without question. TCW ignored all of that, and that's correct. So, you know, changing that up really invalidates the movie and takes the person out of that experience as well. Lucas Gerson says, a show about an unrelated Anakin's Ahsoka and her totally new character Jedi Master, Master living their adventures during the Clone Wars without contradict the Clone Wars multimedia project would have been good. Yeah. And maybe she should have stayed as an apprentice to somebody else or a Padawan, right? All right. So here we go with the Jacen stuff. When Jacen finally put an end to the old Hapen Queen, was like about damn time, dude. Oh, yes. Tenniel Joe. Oh, my God. So he's talking about what happened in Darkness Trilogy and how she basically went to try to have her granddaughter or great-granddaughter assassinated. And Jacen learning about the baby being his. Alana being his. So that right there, if you haven't had a chance to read, you have a little bit of insight with that. So there you go. Let's see here. Meanwhile, the clones and TCW have even a secret bar where they drink and become drunk. Let's see here. Forever EU. Correct. All right. Let's see here. There you go. Yes, it is awesome artwork. All right, so let's see here. So many good ones. The ending of Unifying Force, the integration scene in the Legacy of the Force, the Cadus versus Luke in Inferno mini scenes from Legacy of the Force. Ha ha ha. Yeah. And I know you're not like, the next series is basically a non-hit, like a lull kind of series for you. It's not that intriguing. And it's kind of a, like, for some people it's kind of like, you could have done better, and that's, I'm talking about Fate of the Jedi. But he's dead by then. By Fate of the Jedi, Jacen Darth Cadus is gone. There's only mentions of him, and then also him in the pool. So so we have that little bit of interaction or what have you. Let me see here. The Ganner holding Anakin's purple lightsaber and having his facial scar. Yes, that's what I thought. Correct. And that's when Jacen gives Ganner Anakin's lightsaber. And I can't wait to get to that scene and just talk about that. Again, we're not reviewing the book, reviewing the characters and the events during that time frame. So we'll get into that. This is a more or less a Jacen Solo novel, just like Dark Journey was for his twin sister, Jaina Solo. So very good stuff. Very, very good stuff. Holy shit. Holy shit. I'm providing content for them, huh? Jacen versus Cadus. There you go. So many. All right. So with this, so how many of you guys know, or maybe you know, but you just never really thought about this, but Jacen and his torture that was acted upon him and the manipulation acted upon him was by Nom Anor. It was a secret project. He had his time in the embrace of pain. And during that time, Vergere was also manipulating him, mental manipulation. And in a way, like Kriya is my least favorite character. Some of you guys know this. Oh my God, blasphemy, right? For all you Old Republic fans, I guess you could say. But I just not my favorite character. I get how she is this manipulator and how and the following behind that and what happened to her and stuff like that. And like I said, were they trying to make Vergere like her? They never really said, but how she talks and how she speaks to Jacen and all of that reminds me of Kriya of the Old Republic. And how she's like talking about the Force. Now, she doesn't want to destroy the Force like Kriya did. But there's that sense of manipulation of this switching of context with the Force and this basically this, I want to say it's a mental gymnastics because she's not a stupid character. She's a manipulator. Kriya's a fence rider. You heard it here first, ladies and gents. She's a fence rider. Yeah, so there you go. Wolfscar says, I vaguely recall torture and manipulation, but specific details, nah. It's been a minute since I read those books. So we're talking about Traitor in general. And it goes into the torture, manipulation, and stuff like that. And then after a time period within the book, Vergere is pre-Kriya, correct? She is. When you look into the time of publishing, she is pre-Kriya. Now, not in the historical timeline, but in the publication timeline, right? She's pre-Kriya. So very interesting. Thank you for mentioning that. So, Kriya hater. Soul South's like, I'm out now. I'm not supporting this bitch anymore. But anyways, yeah. So she's in the development of the timeline, like the publication. So she's pre-Kriya. So now I'm interested to see if Kriya was kind of influenced by her. It's a great pointing that out. I'm not even thinking about the timeline of the publication. I'm thinking of the historical timeline here. So with that being said, you know, so she and Nom Anor are doing this top secret project to see how they can manipulate a Jedi and make them their type of like warrior slave, I guess you can say. That's what I got from this. And we already know that they tried to, you know, do that with Tahiri. They tried to shape her. So this is another way of trying to shape Jacen, right? And so this right here is a huge influence to Jacen's life. I don't care how strong of a Jedi you are, how much force abilities you have, whose family you were raised in, and who is your mentors and stuff. Any type of torture, manipulation, and stuff is a great influence on you. No one is immune to going dark. We know that already. I mean, look at we have, for example, Anakin Skywalker, the chosen one. That's the greatest example right there. So how in the hell can, you know, one say that this was to train Jacen? Because we have this. People are saying, and even some of the creators are saying she was just training him. And this was even stated before, like she was his mentor, his trainer. How was that all panned out when you read these books? She was participating in manipulation during the time. You know, so it doesn't matter how. I mean, if Luke can go and try to infiltrate in Dark Empire, the Emperor, and try to learn their secrets so he knows how to defeat them from the inside and still fall. And basically he is, by George Lucas, the same equivalent as Anakin Skywalker in ability, strength, and all this. But he also is a little bit more because he's this optimistic person. And his approach to the Jedi are completely different than what Anakin was raised and grown up in and taught. So if he can succumb, then Jacen is a product of that same training, then he can succumb. So a little bit of, like, I guess you could say, something to plant in your heads to think about when you read through the series, or when you reread through the series, is that the intentions that were set by the creators, the authors, do not match the intentions that were shown when it comes to Vergere, and were shown when it comes to Jacen. Because they're like, oh yeah, he's above Luke now. Towards the end of the series, they're like, oh yeah, he's above Luke now. But then again, we see him still questioning in his place in the Force and as a Jedi. And that's why he goes on his sabbatical. And just because you achieve oneness, quote unquote oneness, doesn't mean you're supreme and superior afterwards either. And people, like, whenever you achieve something so great, you're going to always chase that, right? And even George Lucas speaks about that. When you accomplish something, you're always going to chase it because it's only a feeling of, like, that feeling only lasts for a certain timeline. And now you're always chasing and chasing and chasing it, right? So George does talk about that. But you're never going to reach that same high anymore. You're never going to catch lightning in a bottle again, basically. And then Rodimus Prime says, oh, gee, come on. When are you going to play Knights of the Old Republic? When I have time. And I would love to do it on a bigger screen and with more data and stuff like that, so I can have fun and live stream it and you guys can watch along and make jokes about me and my reactions to what I'm doing. You know, that's what part of that gameplay is. But I have it. I have the game. But going back to that and analyzing the whole thing, like I said, the intentions of Vergere was not what was shown in the book. The intentions of even Jacen was not shown in the book. Oh, geez, too much of a Gen X to play PC. Yeah, you're kind of right on that. I'd rather be like, have my own console and gamepad, game controller and stuff like that and go with it like that. He's calling me out. Look at this. He's calling me out. Said, hope to begin my Traitor reread this weekend. Awesome. Cheers to that. I would like to hear on that. And I do have discussions with Pierce about this right here. When it comes to the Denningverse and all this other stuff, is how the intentions did not match. And I will stick with that, like, especially after my reread, like for the third time, basically, of the New Jedi Order. You get more into seeing, as well as looking in behind the scenes conversation between the authors and the creating the New Jedi Order Bible, right? The New Jedi Order, like, basically, directive on like what they want to do with their characters, their plots, all of this, and where they're going to take them, all of that. And it really doesn't match. And this is where like creators like Alston, Denning, and Travis, and then later on Golden, seeing there was this, like, basically these ends that do not meet. There's this vague storyline on, you can take Jacen either or, but when you get into it, when you get into the story of Nom Anor and Vergere torturing and manipulating, and then putting him in the world ship nursery of where they develop all their biotechnology, and how he learns from what the gifts of he has in the Force, and how he has learned to use that to manipulate things for his own good. You could say that's kind of like whispers of him going dark and stuff like that. And the biggest contradiction too that I'm going to go into is Vergere's death, and how she came back as a quote unquote Force ghost. Now, when you get into the lore of Force ghosts during her time, that was a missing art, a missing ability that Qui-Gon since then discovered, and then only shared with Yoda when he was a Force ghost. And then from that, Yoda then, encouraged Obi-Wan to get in contact with his master Qui-Gon as a Force entity, like Force ghost was. And it was only through his voice, because he wasn't fully powerful enough to manifest, I guess you could say, or the training was missing for him. And then so Obi-Wan learned. And so from there, that's when we see Force ghost ability being reintroduced into the Jedi Order, not beforehand. So her knowing and her being a PT Jedi, how would she know? How would she know how to manifest? So this right here is it's a continuity issue as well. So people like the Green Dolts are like, well, she did manifest as a Force ghost, so she has to be light side. Well, then you have the Force spirits that can attach themselves to something or somewhere, right? And manifest that way. And that right there doesn't break continuity. So something to think about here. So the events in Traitor of Jacen going in and being put after his torture, after this top secret, because Nom Anor was very wary about this being known in the greater Yuuzhan Vong hierarchy, I guess you can say. And so this was top secret for him. And during this time, Jacen was put into the nursery, and he was implanted with the slave orbalists, or whatever they are called. I forget. Pierce, go ahead and let me know the name. But he was implanted with that so they can have control. And because he has the ability, and he was given back the Force, because during the time of the torture and some of the tortures, the Force was taken away from him. But he was given back his ability of the Force, so he's learning how to manipulate these implanted creatures. Slave seeds, there you go. But there's another name. Don't they have another name? But anyways, the slave seed. So So he's learning how to manipulate the slave seed and their main, I guess you could say, controller, right? And so he was using that. And because he did that, and because he has that ability of learning how to befriend through the Force and stuff like that, other species, other like animal species and stuff like that, this was used in tandem to that, right? And so he was able to manipulate everything, and even the other species that were in there already implanted with the slave seeds. So it was very interesting to read that and get into that on his manipulation of that, as well as Vergere going in and still manipulating him. And then the biggest thing right here is she's saying that there is no good, there's no light or dark side. There is only how you react to it that makes it light or dark. So what do you guys think about that? Because we know that there are dark side vortexes and planets like Korriban that can influence a light sider to turn dark, because that essence of the dark side is there, the influence is there. So what do you guys think about what she said about that? And then what is really seen inside the lore? So she's like with Korriban and other Sith type planets. Like when you get into Fate of the Jedi. And Luke does take a team to Korriban. And you have the Sith, was it the Sith Hounds there and stuff like that, that guard? And he's telling them, he's making it very understandable to his Jedi and how much that dark essence, that dark vortex there on Korriban, especially in inside the vaults, the tunnels of Korriban there, how the dark side can influence, or how the beasts can influence you, and how they prey on them. So what do you think? Do you think that this kind of goes against what light and dark side is for George Lucas as well? Something to think about. Something to think about. Now let me see what you guys are saying. Let me see right here. It says, Conrad says, Vergere feels like a type of character Disney would gladly recanonize. Do you think so? And thank you. So slave seed, but I know there's another name for him, right? I just can't think about it right now. I don't have it. It's like at the tip of my tongue, but it's not coming out. Darth Ededu and the Talisman. Yes, correct. Yeah, I know what you're talking about there. Force abilities are generally neutral in sense. Almost every Force user can use it with enough in training. Let's see here. But Vergere was a free roaming ghost. Only Jedi can do that, not Sith. And that's where I'm saying, okay, so does it break continuity with who was caught, or actually it breaks continuity with Force Ghost lore on when it became a basically quote unquote instinct for the Jedi, and then when it was returned, right? So that right there is something to think about. That right there is something to think about. I'm going to scroll down here and let's see. Rodma says, "Oh, gee, what was your reaction to the prequel trilogy? It had EU references back in the 90s and 2000s." You know what? It was fine. I enjoyed it. I figured that they would do that after seeing the special editions. I hear a granddaughter. Yeah, she's out playing right now. Let's see here. It takes a true Jedi to resist the dark side. If there's any doubt, conflict, fear, or anger of any kind, the dark side will take the advantage of that. Very true. Very, very true. Let's see here. All right. So stuff to think about. Was the creation of the lore over time perfect? No, it wasn't. There were hit and misses, of course. Not saying that EU was bad because of that. Like people say, oh, the EU wasn't good because they had some bad stuff, just like the Disney, Star Wars, blah, blah, blah. No, that's not, when you look into the creation behind the scenes type deal when it comes to Lucasfilm, Lucas Books, and their continuity editors, basically they made sure that they try to catch everything, right? But it's impossible to catch everything. And later on down the line, then when that turns up again, then that's where that retcon happens or the correction happens. So, so you could say, oh, well, at the time, this is what they thought, but it really didn't happen that way. So correcting the errors as they go along, it was a tough task. And I praise all of those like Sue Stoney and Leland Chi later on and stuff like that for keeping track of all of this. Because when you look at the grand timeline of Star Wars, 25,000 plus into the past and 130 into the future, but then you have that middle point of it going down to 0 and resetting the timeline, and that's the Battle of Yavin. So you have this extreme historical timeline. There's still some gaps in the lore where there's nothing created, so we can only guess what had happened during that time. And so there was a lot of content that was being monitored and tracked. So I'm not saying that this book, Traitor or New Jedi Order, is bad. It's one of my favorite. In fact, it ties in, or sometimes it goes back and forth for first with Legacy of the Force series. And but my thing is going back into Jacen Solo. Now, the authors, there's this timeline between Darkness Trilogy, which ends the New Jedi Order timeline. Now, it's not a part of the New Jedi Order series prospectively, but it is the ending of the New Jedi Order series in the timeline, if that makes sense, right? So it's not part of Legacy of the Force. It's the ending of the New Jedi Order series. And so you have the 6-year timeline gap between the ending of the New Jedi Order series and the beginning of the Darkness Trilogy. And that time frame basically is when Jacen was off on his sabbatical or his leave, basically on exploring other Force societies and trying to find his place as a Force user, as a Jedi, searching for these questions, all of that. So nothing was written, and I think this is a big miss with LucasFilm during the time. Nothing was written during that time. I wish they would have expanded more on that, so that we didn't have to have Fate of the Jedi to come in where Luke is exiled, and then he, because of Jacen and what he did, and they held Luke accountable for his actions and all that. So he's, going on this exile to learn more about what happened with Jacen, because Jacen didn't write in detail or didn't give his full experience of what he did. And that was slowly being uncovered during that time. I wish they would have, instead of doing that Fate of the Jedi, went back and filled in that time frame between Darkness Trilogy and New Jedi Order. I know I'm going on a whole big thing about that. It's just my love of this timeline here and going into Fate of the Jedi or Legacy of the Force or Legacy era. So I wish they would have done that, because we can only now speculate exactly what was going on with him on his sabbatical once we get into Darkness Trilogy and Legacy of the Force, right? And, Darkness Trilogy, Jacen, basically, you could start hearing like dark side essence and the manipulation of Vergere coming through to where Mara recognized it as how Vader and Palpatine thought, and what she witnessed with those two under, when she was serving under the Empire. So I thought that was very interesting. She started calling out these little dark side like tendencies and thought processes that Jacen was doing. And it fits perfectly well with, okay, so what influenced him on his sabbatical or his leave when it comes to other Force societies, right? Because even Luke, like the Fallen Nazi, or was it Fallen Nazi? Well, we know that there are some Force societies that steer more into the dark side part of the Force, right? And to them, it's just perfectly fine. That's just their life way and stuff. But when it comes to a human or a Jedi, that's dark side. So we get more into this push and pull of like how other species see the Force, right? And so I thought that was very, very fascinating and a very good, I guess you could say, exploration of the team during the time creating the lore past New Jedi Order, like Alston, Denning, and Travis and Golden. And so we have that. And we don't know exactly, like I said, what happened to him till later in Fate of the Jedi. And what abilities he learned, what influenced him. Well, a lot of the influence was from the torture and the manipulation. And then we get into the fate of the legacy of the Force, where we start seeing more influence, and we see Lumaya coming back into the picture and how they needed a villain. And so they're like, let's bring in Lumaya. You know, she's a character that, you know, we need to explore a little bit more on what happened with her and what was going on there at the time. And it was even stated for Lumaya, like what she said may not be all true. But again, what Vergere said too is everything I say is a lie. So there's the similar correlations between the two. And more of the manipulation and confusion and all the stuff that was fed to Jacen during his torture and his manipulation and then the confusion that he had going forward, and he needed to find his place. And then even his you know, time, you know, as a under, you know, Lumaya and all this other stuff. So again, I'm analyzing this to just give a clearer picture to you guys when it comes to Traitor, what happened to him going forward, and what we're going to see going forward. And he learns how to sense he learns basically how the Vong works some more. He also, like his brother, learns to sense them in a way. So any questions or anything else you guys want to say? We're going to start closing this and get into the cringe factor here. Marco Ragnos was a Sith spirit who tried to resurrect with his scepter. So you mean Darth Marca or Darth Ragnos? Oh my goodness. All right. So I'd like to hear you guys, like, from what I presented here to you on the small event that happened, because Jacen is now in the nursery. We'll get more into like Gamma Rysode and all this other stuff during this time frame next week. But share in the comments on what you think. Like, let's see here. Actually, it's Darth Ragnos. There we go. That is so funny. So what do you think about that? Like, are you seeing how this is all like being tied together and how this makes sense? That this is not necessarily a retcon, but an evolution of the character based upon what was given in the story arc. I hear what you're saying, OG, but Denny Verse, Darth Marco Ragnos. There you go. Marco Ragnos. Marco Ragnos. Holy crap. Yeah, so there you go. So like I said, my third time through, you know, reading New Jedi Order, you know, clarifies a lot of that. And then when you go back and listen to HoloNet's research and the interviews and what the authors say, it's like what they intended failed significantly. But then again, you have Matthew Stover that said, like, for Traitor, basically was saying, I don't want to influence the reader's opinion on what's going on with Jacen. I want them to come to their own conclusion. And now I'm paraphrasing, but basically that's what he says. So can that be applied to the other authors? I don't want to influence what they see, what they've read. Stoververse. Yep. Me every time Vergere opens up her mouth. Shut up, bird. This is my first time through with Traitor, and I ain't buying Vergere for a second. Exactly. She is not this like this Yoda-like Jedi entity. You got to think about that. She's influenced by who she's been under and captive, or, you know, you can't even say she's being a captive anymore because she's working alongside the Vong. So again, how was the intentions of this character when it doesn't even match? Hi. Hold on, you guys. I'm going to play a clip. I'm going to say hi to my grandbaby. She's peeping through the door. Let's see here. What can I play real quick?
Are you sure? So be it.
All right, so Palpatine, the one that is starting to break away from the rule of two. That's another story for another time we can talk about. But right now we're talking about the bird. The bird's the word, right? The bird's the word. All right, so a bit of, like I said, a bit of history here for Jacen in the timeline of Traitor in the events. Being manipulated, learning how to manipulate, other creature species and put in that nursery. And he does overcome, he does influence the other slaves because the brain of the slave seeds, basically, he made a friend out of. He made a friend out of. And that was basically how he was able to escape and all that. And then, of course, Vergere coming in and still manipulating, still keeping up the manipulation. Now, you could say manipulation is a part of training. Well, depends on what you're going for, right? Like, Sith manipulate in their training. Jedi don't. Something to think about. Sith manipulate in their training. Jedi don't. Sith manipulate in training. Jedi don't. I'm so proud that OG brought up bird is the word. Had my doubts if anyone would say, but she saves the stream. Yeah. I'm so glad to please you like that. That's hilarious. Let's see here. Vergere was an advisor to a high-ranking Vong, so she definitely picked up a few tricks on building influence, good or evil. And at this point, she's not a captive. She is a willing participant. Now think about that. She's a willing participant to this, to Nom Anor's tactics, this top secret experiment. Now, just imagine if it was another Jedi like Gamma Raiso. Would then this experiment fully succeed because the type of character Gamma Raiso is? We won't know, but something to think about. And how would then, if it was a successful experiment by Nom Anor, how do you think that would have influenced then capturing Jedis and manipulated them to serve the Vong? Again, we're going into what ifs. Oh, we're going into theories. No, but just something to think about because this is Nom Anor's experiment and Vergere is a willing participant. Lucas Garrison says, no, make Vergere a Sith was a mistake and a character assassination. Denningberg. Now, make her a Jedi in the first place was a mistake. She was always manipulative and her own and had her own agenda. Yes, and she worked alongside as a participant with the Vong. She returned to the Vong. Stockholm syndrome. Can you say that? Maybe. And then also says, there's nothing I heard from Vergere I didn't hear from Plagueis or Sidious. They are practical, but not morally sound. There you go. All right. So with that being said, I planted some thought seeds here. not slave seeds, but I planted some thoughts to you guys here. For those that are rereading, if you're getting ready to read Traitor, no, I guess I influenced you, but you be your own judgment on this, and I would love to hear back from you. And so we're in this part of the timeline. I wanted to get into Gamma Rysode on his own, but I wanted to talk a little bit more about Jacen and what was going on with him in this event, because this is a single event right here within Traitor. It's all about Jacen, the top secret experiment by Nom Anor. Vergere is the willing participant, and this is about how they can manipulate a Jedi to serve them, basically. So something to think about. Mazzo says the irony is that Denning portrayed Vergere more like a Jedi than Stover, but no, Denning verse. Interesting point there. Very interesting. So talking about manipulation, we are going to get into our cringe factor here. So let me go ahead and stop the screen here. And we are going to get back in to now our next segue and cringe factor. So with that being said, let's go ahead and play this. I always like playing this before whenever we talk about New Jedi Order some way, somehow. And then we'll get into our cringe factor. So if you need to grab a drink or refresh, feel free to do that.
I had fought the worst of all wars and witnessed the redemption of evil. I have seen balance restored to the Force. But order can turn to chaos, as it did when I was born. Now, with my loved ones and my loyal allies, I face a new challenge unlike any before. And I'm not sure this time we can win.
Star Wars Vector Prime by R.A. Salvatore, the first novel of the New Jedi Order.
Now let me pull up the screen here. So usually this one, I was like, it's a pretty easy find for me to pull up. But now I'm scrolling, and I'm scrolling, and I'm scrolling. All right, let's see here. Where is it? Okay, yeah. See, I knew where it was. I just needed to scroll down. All right, and then I'll pull up the article too. We'll get through this. It's not basically more about Kathleen Kennedy as an individual, like her retirement, I guess you can say, and what she had to say about that, and then bringing in her succeeders. But it's more or less about what she said about Filoni and approaching him to train him or have him get interested in live action. So basically films. So let me go ahead and pull this up. Let me go ahead and play this first though. Let's see here. Where is it at? Here we go.
So uncivilized.
So what are your thoughts about Filoni being president and Lin-Wen, or whatever her name is, being co-president? That's how it is labeled on LucasFilm website. Filoni is titled president, not co-president, but president, and Lin-Wen co-president. So what do you think about that? And I want to hear your guys' opinion about that. Let me see here. All right. So Star Wars Holocron has contributed before to Cringe Factor, but the contribution is not as much as Screen Rant, of course. Now, let me see where I'm at. StreamYards. There we go. All right, let's go ahead and make this image bigger. So let me see what you're seeing in the chat. If you guys comment on Dave, who? Luke, bring it on. Yeah. Disney's Luke when new challenge unlike any before appear. Well, time to exile to an island and on a random planet to die and abandon everyone. Yep, there you go. All right, Filoni is Disney's Vergere, manipulating everyone into his own agenda. Ooh, wow, Lucas Gerson. That is a heavy thing to think about, like what's really going on here, right? When she means by preparing, she actually means grooming. There we go. So mentoring. Okay, so let me see. Let me go back here to Star Wars Holocron. Says Kathleen Kennedy says that she has been preparing Dave Filoni to become president of Lucasfilm for years. So this is what Star Wars Holocron said. And let me go ahead and click on this. And hopefully you guys see it without me having to reshare, because that kind of gets tricky a little bit here. And then we'll click on variety here and get into this. So basically, quote unquote, and tell me if you think she's really saying that she's prepared Filoni for president of Lucasfilm for years or just for films. Okay. So there's this rewording or misunderstanding of what is really being said, right? It doesn't just happen 6 months ago, or it didn't just happen 6 months ago. I spent 10 years talking Dave into gradually stepping into live action. He had so much experience in animation. He's so knowledgeable about Star Wars and loves it so much. It's really been a 10-year mentoring process for both Filoni and Lin Brennan. So there you go. And then so what I said basically is mentoring. Live action is not mentoring for president. Running Lucasfilm isn't just making movies. So what do you guys think about that? The Force is female. And then 10 years, huh? Well, it's time. That's time wasted. Well, her time in Lucasfilm was a lot of ways too, but hey, here we are. Okay, so Wolfscar says, knowledgeable about Star Wars. Where is the knowledge? Where is the love? Is it in the room? One failure training another, right? And I have shared this before, and I like I said, I didn't say like I said, but I have not brought up the page of where Filoni, I wish I had prepared that, but I didn't, of where Filoni said that he got training. He was on set and he gives thanks to Rian Johnson for allowing him to assist and train and have him train under him while making The Last Jedi. So Rian Johnson is also his mentor. And for those a lot of these Filoni fanatics who love Filoni so much really had a breakdown and who do not like The Last Jedi or Rian Johnson, really had a breakdown when I presented that evidence a while back. And yeah, it could be discerning, right? It could be like put you off your feed basically when you don't like a certain creator, and the creator that you love and you put on a pedestal gets training from them. And here we are here again. Kennedy saying that she trained, like she talked with him and she mentored him on live action. On live action. She does not say to take over as president for Lucasfilm. And I'll even bring up the whole quote on that in Variety. So to me, it's like, oh, and like I said, I use a clickbait type title for this, that she groomed him. And she's like, I did not spend 6 months. I spent 10 years talking with Dave and gradually setting him up for live action. So she recommended him probably to go to Rian Johnson to get training from him, to get the experience, hands-on experience with Rian Johnson. And both are known for their poor stories. Plain and simple. So, what that saying? What's that saying? People of the same feather flock together or something like that. Might want to consider reposting that Filoni post. Oh, the one with him talking about or praising Rian Johnson for allowing him to go on set and learn from him. I will. By the way, it's Filoni that's president. There's no co-president. It's been Dave all along. And yes, we go to Johnson, the guy who made The Last Jedi, and that shouldn't have been a movie like at all. You can't even suspend your disbelief for it. And then again from, so I'm just reading your comments here, especially the the fence riders saying civil war within circus film and Dave has been shackled with the creativity. That's bullshit. This is the proof that Kathleen was grooming him to be like her. This is proof there was no fucking Civil War. This is proof there was no Civil War. He's been under her coattail. However you want to put that in your mind's eye. I don't know if you want to go there, but he's been under her coattail learning, and she's been directing him to go into live action films. But then Star Wars Holocron says, oh no, it's for him to become president of LucasFilm. And no matter which way this is going or has gone or is the intentional process for this, the point is there was no fucking Civil War. No Civil War whatsoever. He has always been in the same camp of Kennedy, the same direction in thought process of creativity, which you can say much about that. The lack thereof, maybe. He's been in the same camp of, like, even using George's name as appeal to authority for one's own actions. There's a lot of, how am I going to put this? Dishonesty. A lot of dishonesty. So let's go ahead and click in on the article here. Make sure I have the right one. X. I'm looking for the article title name. You know, I might have to, hopefully I can click in and not change. Oh shit, I have to change. It's not going to show it. All right, so I'm going to have to change screens. So let me go ahead and do that real quick. So give me some more, give me what you think about this whole situation is, like the Civil War, how there was really none whatsoever, and your conclusion to this. What is revealed here today? What is revealed here today? Because this is a very important aspect and element of this, is like this huge civil war between Filoni and Kennedy, and Favreau, Filoni versus Kennedy, and all of a sudden Filoni and Kennedy and against Favreau. You know, there was that back and forth push and pull on who took sides and who was on what side and what was really going on, when in reality, you know, Kennedy's like over here orchestrating it all and everybody was with her on this. She was orchestrating the setup of possibly who was going to succeed her. Again, this is only Star Wars Holocron's point of view, because she doesn't really say that in the article. But in reality, he was getting mentored by her. No matter which way you put it, he was being mentored. So how is that a fucking civil war? You tell me. How is that a civil war? Soul Assassin says the Civil War just a culture war bullshit to build drama for subs. It is. Never fell for this damn thing, Civil War, at all. It was evident from the start there was no Civil War. That Filoni and even Favreau, because how can you go work for a company that you don't agree with on creativity? You don't. You don't. You turn down the opportunity. Or you just do what you say and just leave. But a civil war implies that you're sticking up against the machine of the company and trying to ruin their plans and all this other stuff and go against all their morals and standards. No, you're not compromising wait, let me rephrase that. You're compromising your own morality by doing that. To stick up for and against the machine that you go against, whether it's Disney or what have you, you don't step in. You stand out and you speak against. That's the Civil War. Now, what about infiltrators? No, that's fucking bullshit. Not in this kind of thing. All right, so let's get into this. let's get into this. So this is the whole article. We're not going to read the whole thing, but it's Kathleen Kennedy on Lucasfilm handoff, AI boundaries, and one power Grogu won't have in a new Mandalorian movie. So AI boundaries, something I might want to get into later on, but not today. Okay, so we have this whole big, let me go ahead and get this article out from the bottom. Okay. All right, so we have this whole interview from her and going into AI and basically her accolades, her basically filmography under, help creating or, overseeing all these movies and stuff. So backstage, Kennedy spoke with Variety about the upcoming May release. So, that's the wrong one. So Kennedy said audience, let me see. Okay, so here we go. The exec also reflected on handing over the reins to Lucasfilm in January to longtime deputies Dave Filoni, now president and chief creative officer, and Linwin, co-president. See, there you go. So we have it again here. So people are saying co-president for both of them. No, it's not that way. So this article is also saying she's reflecting on handing over the reins. So, but basically she's just talking about getting him involved in live action. I didn't just happen 6 months ago. So this is the quote that we read earlier. And she spent 10 years mentoring process for both of them. 10 years mentoring process for both of them. So the guesstimate is around 2016, right when the trilogy started coming out. Shortly after the buyout, when everything started settling, when they pushed Lucas out as a consultant, she started grooming them. and so this is here. So this is the rest of this here. So you could do what you want with this. And she says, so it's Filoni, so knowledgeable about Star Wars and loves it so much. It's really been, so she's saying, oh, Filoni is really knowledgeable about Star Wars and loves it so much. Are you fucking kidding me? You remember that time. Some of you guys might remember when a fan called out Filoni at a convention. I don't think it was Star Wars convention or celebration. I could be wrong. But basically, a fan called him out on, I believe it's the character Valorum. I could be wrong. I'm probably wrong. But anyways, and Filoni, after that, basically started switching his direction about what he thought about the EU. So very interesting. Doesn't mean that is not really necessarily proof that what he knows or doesn't know, or is it? Because if a fan could call him out on his knowledge about a character, event and character, then that basically does put into question what he does know, right? And since then, he changed his mind about the EU. Now, Kennedy doesn't know nothing about Star Wars. That's predominantly evident. But does a creator and president need to know Star Wars? Well, George knows Star Wars. He's the creator of Star Wars. And all the creatives he brought in, everything was archived basically by the continuity keeper. So if he needed to look up something as he started creating something else or putting through ideas, he had that resources in front of him because it started coming into a big extent collection of lore, species, vehicles, planets, all of that of course you need to keep track of it so that and it need to be recorded so that the creatives can go back and cross-reference. That's something that's known. But to say knowledgeable, I beg to differ. He couldn't even get Padme right when he was asked a question. But with that being said, here we are. Civil War. Was there a civil war? No, there wasn't. There was just mentoring, grooming, all of that, I guess you could say. Kennedy and Filoni walking hand in hand because she wanted him and made him successor. That is not a making of a civil war whatsoever. So now, are we going to see the Civil War now? But it's going to be involved with other people when people don't agree with the direction that is being done with the lore, with the Star Wars universe, basically, the franchise? Is there going to be a new Civil War? And who would that consist of? Joshy Boy believed it. Theory believed it. And the others, Vince Writers, believed it. The Civil War thing has evolved and they have switched sides so many fucking times it's hard to keep count anymore. Even Doomcock, went into that. Even Doomcock went into that. And he might have been maybe one of the first idealists of this Civil War that so many idiots believed and kept coming back for more because of the drama it created. Right? The Civil War. Now, I predict there's going to be one. There's going to be another candidates for this. It's going to be Filoni versus who? Filoni versus who? Is it going to be Filoni versus Favreau now? Filoni versus who? Is it going to be Filoni versus his co-president? We shall see. Stay tuned for that. Because there's always have to be this grift, this conflict, especially when you don't agree with the direction that something's being taken. And what about Kennedy writing KK on the house or the building in the book of, or was it Mandalorian, right? The Mandalorian, the book of Boba Fett. I'm not that much versed on that lore. I just know it happened. So that was Kennedy, and there's a civil war, and she was trying to sabotage. So think about this. No civil war. Her and Filoni were hands in hands. So what if that was just him allowing her just to put her initials there, just for the fun of it, just for the hell of it, as a Easter egg? Something to think about there, right? Because that was made into part of the Civil War to try to sabotage. Filoni versus OG. She already struck first with Hidalgo admitting he was wrong. She's the Phantom Menace. So think about that. That KK, that was supposedly Kennedy trying to sabotage the show. What if that was just an Easter egg that they allowed Kennedy to do? Now, I'm just playing around with this stupid ass theories that people are throwing out for the Civil War and switching it on its head, right? What if it's just an Easter egg? Because, she knew she was leaving soon or within the near future. And so she was just, at Filoni's side holding his hand. And he's like, yeah, let's do an Easter egg. Let's put your initials on the building so you can set your mark. Now, see how crazy and easy this can be used to manipulate the masses? Coming up with some crazy ass bullshit to, for this crazy ass Civil War. What's up, SWA? We are talking about how there's no Civil War, that Filoni has been being groomed by Kennedy all this time for 10 years to be the president. The show was horrible to begin with. Why post KK Easter egg? Not like it was gun save the show. I'm just like I said, I'm just showing how idiotic this is and how many people fell for that. It's crazy, right? Crazy ass shit. But hey, it's there. What are some crazy things that you heard about the Civil War? like Kennedy going in and sabotaging or what have you. And how can you flip it over and change the script on that to make it like I did, flipping the script on, oh, it's an Easter egg because she knew she was leaving. And Filoni, because he loved her so much and she was his mentor, just said, okay, go ahead and do it. That day, Filoni was in shackles. He was limited to his creativity, basically was held back. That was the narrative that they were saying. Yes, exactly. And they will even dismiss his talk, his speech he did, as I believe he was the keynote speaker there. I could be wrong, but his speech at that women's conference that he spoke at. All right. So, sorry to break the news to you guys. There was no civil war. Filoni was hand in hand with Kennedy for 10 years, maybe a little more. Maybe this was shortly after, well, this from the looks of it, shortly after Lucas was casted out as even creative consultant. Because who fucking needs George Lucas when you have Filoni, right? Who needs him when you have the fraudloni? The one that's George's apprentice who knows better than George about Star Wars now. Holy shit. No civil war, you guys. None whatsoever. It's all a fucking lie. It was all a fucking grift to create drama. Now I get, speaking up against the direction that Disney has taken Star Wars, I get that. Because I have, from the beginning, after seeing the efforts, not the efforts, what Matt Wilkins was presenting with, with continuing legends and that campaign and all that, and speaking out against what Disney is going to be doing, and then finally making my stance and changing my platform as a George Lucas era Star Wars platform and speaking up against that and bringing you guys the true Star Wars, right? I've seen it all coming, but I get it. Being, I guess you could say, a disgruntled fan, not liking the direction and speaking out against it. I get it. But to then maintain a grift of a civil war with, oh, my sources, take it with a grain of salt, but my sources said this and that and that and this, and there's a civil war. And then shifting the grift on the civil war to maintain your continuity of a civil war, basically, to keep getting views. My channel don't do that fucking shit. It doesn't. I want to be as fair, as honest as I can be. And, and speak up as much as I can. But to maintain George Lucas era Star Wars front and center. We just got done talking a lot about that, right? With Jacen Solo and his character arc in Traitor. What was going on there? Vergere. Behind the scenes with the authors and what their attempt was, but what really happened. And yes, I will speak up against this grift. A grift, well, it's more or less a dishonesty, untruthfulness, fiction, and yet they call you a grifter, OG. Yes, I'm a grifter, right? I'm a grifter because I share, the EU and how it's maintained as a part of the saga, which is the movies. It expands off the saga, which is the movies. A single continuity in the canon. And there you go. Only one canon. Only one canon. Hierarchy does not mean that it's split up into different canons. That is just a filing system of where everything was made. And that the movies set the foundation. so no grifts here. No Civil War for LucasFilm. There we go. That narrative is now gone out the door. It is now gone. So you guys be diligent. Keep an eye out because I'm pretty sure there's going to be a new Civil War coming up later. Just wait till these next like films and shows and stars start coming out. What happens with that? And we're going to close here. You know, George Lucas created a phenomenal franchise. Foundation, the movies, but did you guys know, and you guys probably do, those listening that don't know, that the franchise opened up with the novels and the comics first. And it's always been that way. Before the movie, the novels came out first. And it is a multimedia franchise. Multimedia franchise. Brilliant, brilliant franchise. And George Lucas got world record for so many novels tied to the movies. I don't think anybody has superseded that just yet for franchise. If they have, I would like to know who. That'd be cool to see. But that means they are in continuity with the movies. They're a single canon with the movies. So thank you guys again for supporting those on Rumble. Thank you for hanging out over there and supporting over there. I didn't glance at Rumble. Okay, so I'm making sure I didn't have any Rumble rants or anything that was shared. And you guys are amazing. The last few days, well, from when I announced it, I went up in 50 subs, which is pretty cool because for the type of niche and channel I am, I'm not going to grow significantly as those who do other stuff for their platform. And that's perfectly fine. So thank you guys again. Next week, we will be using, and you guys probably won't even know, we'll be using Rumble as the platform to stream off of. So I'll be I will be taking all my clips and stuff over there and setting that up to see how much I like that versus StreamYards and making the decision of what I want to do with that. So with that being said, thank you guys so much. If you catch the replay, let me know. Smash the like button. And stay tuned for when I have a painting stream. I need to do a painting stream. I want to do a painting stream. So stay tuned for that where we can hang out, talk anything, everything Star Wars or non-related Star Wars. So thank you guys again for hanging out. And may the Force be with you.
Another happy landing.